What does come up here a lot is the mare's tail, which you've probably all had. And again, in any of the old books, they all say, oh, the leaf tips can be boiled a bit like asparagus. And it's the same with the horsetail. So when they're younger, you can, but you can imagine it would be quite tough. You can imagine. So they haven't come up yet, but again, people just pull them out all the time, but they're a very useful herb. And there have been I'm talking about horsetail and mare's tail, which a lot of people have a problem with in their gardens.
They're very deep rooted, aren't they?
Very deep rooted, so they do draw up a lot of... Speaking of deep rooted, so is the coltsfoot, very deep rooted. And apparently, back to coltsfoot, if a seed can be, I think, like a meter or more under the ground, and it can still germinate. That's why you always find it on the edge of old, like, building sides of the roads. You know, it can be buried really deep, and it'll still find its way to the surface. What's that one you're talking about? Coltsfoot. I just jumped back there.
And what did you say about the horsetail?
Well, it used to be used in, again, milk. It used to be used to clean the pots, to scrub the pots. It was very useful. You can imagine it's quite wiry. It's
like a cleaner.
Yeah, like a scourer. It's really high in silica. It's one of the highest natural forms of silica. Something like 90%. But in order to access it, you need to simmer it for about 20 minutes to actually access it. But it's one of the most ancient living plants that are still around. It's from the dinosaur age. It's a very special plant. Horsetail. It's just coming up at the minute. It's still tiny. Horsetail. Yeah. Equisetum. It's just coming up. We might pass some, but it's covered everywhere, and it's a problem. It really is a problem, and it's so good at at multiplying itself and taking over. But it's a very useful. But I wouldn't. So this is ground ivy.
Ground ivy.
Oh, that's...
Okay. Yeah, I think you could use. I think they used to like sugar the flowers, and you can. I think you just dip them in egg yolk and then in sugar, and you can keep them for ages. And you can use them on your baking or whatever. But it's a very good medicinal remedy for all sorts of. A lot of it's for just pains, really. You can take it or you can use it externally. It's a very good part of. It's
a creeping plant, is it?
Yeah, it just comes out now. You won't see it in a couple of months.
What is it called?
I've heard of it, never seen it.
Well, you'd make a tea, or you make it into oils for rubbing on your skin. Oh, this is ground ivy.
You don't
ground ivy. Yeah.
You don't just eat it as it is. You make.
Not really, but you use the flowers. Are used for decorative purposes, and they're edible, but it's got quite a few uses. So the thing here is, if you're ever picking herbs and plants, is just to be respectful. Like with nettles, it's usually about the top 5 or 6 leaves that you pick if you're picking for a recipe, and then you kind of never pick more than about 1/3 of what's there. Always leave some behind for the plant, for the bees. Just don't overpick. That's the most important thing to remember. And especially with nettles, it's about the top 5 or 6.
Is that now? Sting the top 5 or 6 as much
well,
as the
some
others,
people,
or?
yeah, some people get. I just know how to pick them, so I don't really often get stung. But now is the best time to pick nettles. It's the best time now before the flowers come up. And if you want to store it, you just go around, you can actually manage a plot of nettles just by picking like this. You could just graze through the whole lot, and by picking up picking the top 5, it'll just keep producing more and more. The ones lower down aren't, this is where all the goodness, this is where all the power, all the nutrients, all the vitamins, all the energy is, at the tips. If they have gone to seed and you want to use them, you can actually cut the nettles down. If it's a bit late in the season and you decide you want to use your nettle, you can cut them down, and then the new growth you can use later in the year. But if you want to pick them, and now is the best time to pick them. So I've got a recipe there, you know, nettle soup. There's so again, if you didn't have much left in the world, you really would want nettles around, as well as the wildlife. Is it the admiral, which is the peacock that they feed? I think it's the peacock butterfly that lives on nettles. So it's really good to keep a patch, because that's the only food they eat, and it's the only food they'll lay their eggs on. So they're really important habitat. It's one of the best sources of fiber if you want to make string or clothes. It's just like hemp. It's the same quality. It's actually better than hemp for making clothes with. So clothes were made from it in the past. It's a really good dye for dyeing clothes. It's like it's kind of like a greeny, sort of khaki green color. And yeah, medicinally, it's really good, again, as a cleanse. Liver, very high in iron. So if you're anemic, anything like that, and it's really accessible, because a lot of iron tablets and that your body can't absorb. But in the nettle plant, it's got everything else in it to make your body absorb. It's got the vitamin C, it's got everything that makes the iron accessible. So it's a really valuable plant, as well as the nutrition content of it. And I mean, you can mix it in with rice, like, you know, especially now, when traditionally it would have been a really dry it's a cold period, you'd be eating a lot of stodge, you haven't been having much vitamins, your stores are getting low, and this is where it's all at. Do you know, just for getting yourself a spring cleanse, drink it as a tea. You can steep it in wine to have a tonic wine.
Does it have any antioxidants in it?
Yeah, it's got so much in it. Especially now, this is the time when when it's all happening with the nettle plant, and you won't be doing much harm by picking it, because it'll keep coming back. The roots are really good for men for prostate problems, but obviously then you're clearing out the plant. But quite often it does take over, and you want to clear it out. But it's just an all-round useful, wonderful plant, the nettle. Does anyone have any questions or anything to add to that? Because there's so much, I'm sure I haven't even listed all. There's so many uses for it.
How could you use the root then? Somebody with problems.
You would grind it up, and with roots, like with the leaves, you just pour hot water. If you can't bruise it, but I mean, you could just stick this in a cup of hot water, leave it for a few minutes, and then drink it, and it's a lovely tea. But with roots, you usually need to simmer for a few minutes to get what you need out of the roots. They've usually got more tannins, things like that need time to kind of simmer and boil out a bit. So you could use it like that, or you'd make a tincture, which is using like an alcohol which would draw out the active ingredients, and so you'd make a tincture, like an alcohol or glycerin based tincture, which quite often with roots that happens. So you think, oh, I think it's or dermatitis, I'll go in the sun and try and clear it up, and then you just get these massive blisters. And my daughter ended up in hospital, which is more purpley, but they're the same properties. And again, you can eat the tips. You can eat them in a salad, or just eat them, or you can lightly steam them again with a bit of butter if you wanted. But the whole plant of this is also one of the most useful tree. What's a shrub when it's like this? But obviously it's like a tree when it gets bigger. And the leaves are really healing, as well as being edible. You can use them, you can make ointments, or mostly in oil to rub on you. They were used a lot for like for horses, for like suppurating sores that wouldn't heal, like on their knees. They'd use the elder. It was a kind of, I make an ointment called green ointment, and this is the base of it, and it just heals everything, especially on kids. Every scratch, every rash, it just clears it's like a first aid miracle balm. But the leaves are great, the flowers are great. You can do, you were saying about putting it in like a batter. Yeah, with the elderflowers, they're also great, also as a herb to drink, the flowers. And then the cordials, you've got your elderflower cordial, you've got the berries, which are really high in antioxidants, and they're doing a lot of research into the elderberry, especially when, what was it? Was it swine flu? That was a big key, the elderberries with the swine flu. They were doing the research in it. The bark is full of really good stuff, again, to be used medicinally. Really, that's the main use, because it's obviously not edible, the bark really. But every part of this tree it's a really useful one to have in your garden.
So that's the green elk?
Yeah.
And there's a black elk?
Yeah, one Sambucus nigra, which is the black one, and then it's Sambucus something else.
But they both have the same
very
blackberries
similar
and flowers.
Yeah. Very similar properties. Yeah. And again, the berries are used medicinally. They've got really good uses. I won't go into them all just now as well. But
Starlings love them as well.
yeah, and then it's all the wildlife to share them with. We've got oyster mushrooms over there. Oyster mushroom, the younger ones are better, more edible. But I'm not really. I'm not gonna. Yeah, cool. No, these are oyster mushrooms. And I'm trying to think what the other one is. They grow in ash and I think beech and ash. They grow on. We can all taste when we go inside, and I've got the recipe for. But as far as I know, it's a protected plant, so you'd never pick the whole plant when you're out in the wild. But if you're picking it, you just go around and pick. You probably pick a couple from each plant, and then just move through, so you can almost hardly see that you've picked. You'd never go and just pick the whole lot. It's just to be like respectful with it. If there are the flowers, try and leave the flowers so that they can spread the seeds, and never take out the root. But a few leaves, there's enough to go around. Do you know? Do you all know wild garlic? Do you want to have a really good example of things out in the wild? Because you've got your nettles, you've got the dogs next to the nettles. We've got your cleavers here. You've got your dandelions.
We've got dandelions.
Here, these are nice big leaves to put in your salad. Delicious. And here, we haven't seen yet, this is your lesser celandine. It's from the same family, ranunculus, something like that. And this is also known as pilewort. So, it's not so much, it's probably edible, I'd have to look that up, but it's used in the treatment for hemorrhoids, piles. And there's some, because of its name, there's something in herbal, sort of medicinal herbal history called the doctrine of signatures. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah.
And it's like saying that a plant looks like the organ or what it's supposed to help. And at the base of these lesser celandine, they've got these, like, they're little nodules. The roots make nodules which are supposed to look like piles, hemorrhoids. So I'm trying to think of another. You get lungwort. I don't know if you've seen lungwort. And the leaves are like big, flat, sort of a bit like comfrey leaves, but they've got little spots on them.
Do they have pink and blue flowers?
Yes. And they're supposed to represent like the lungs. They look, if you can think a bit like the lungs, like all the capillaries in the way a lung looks. the leaf looks, and that works with the lungs. It's quite clever. Like,
Can you eat those leaves then?
I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
And is this edible then?
No, so this is the dog. So
Is it the same one?
yeah, supposedly it's edible, but like I say, you'd have to be quite hungry.
So not
They're not terribly. I mean, these are. I love dandelion leaves. I think they're delicious. But what I think a lot of people don't know, like say you stung yourself on a nettle, especially children stinging. It's like, oh, you just use one of these. But I think what a lot of people don't know is how you actually, do you know? Like you really need to squeeze it.
I stung myself just this minute.
But, no, but you see what I'm doing? Right,
It's breaking it down.
If you keep going and keep going,
The moisture out.
can you see?
Wow.
Can you see the? Now that's what you put on your on your little stings, and that's what. Yeah. So like with children especially, because if you saw and you start trying to wipe one of those, it does, you know, it just makes it worse.
Yeah.
So you just kind of
A couple of these dandelions.
Oh, okay, there's the dandelion.
Oh, I wouldn't be eating the dog.
Again, you'd want to wash things like this in a public park. You wouldn't really want to. But this is a really nice, I mean, this is kind of just left to its own devices. This has not been kind of meddled with at all. It's near the river. And this is kind of what you'd see. Over there we've got cow parsley. I don't know if you can see. Can you see underneath the bramble, that sort of feathery leaf above the nettle? Can you see that there?
Yeah.
Well, that's called cow parsley. I'll show you again.
Like parsley.
Yeah, like parsley. As we're going along, I'll show you. And that's supposed to be one of the closest relatives to what we have now as caraway. And I've never thought of that as edible, but that is another one you can, according to the books, eat. Is the cow parsley. Again, just lightly steamed with a bit of butter.
Same flavour as caraway.
No, I don't think it's got a very nice flavour.
I don't like it.
I can't taste the caraway in it, but I mean, when we pass it, you can have a nibble and see what you think. It just tastes kind of sappy to me, but you can have a little try of it. But I mean, these are like the main suspects that you will find when you're out. You know, the ramsons are a little bit rarer and harder to come across, but these are the things that most of us have in our gardens, if we have gardens, that we're weeding out. But they really are very, very useful, and it's worth keeping a little bit just to harvest for your meals. It's quite small. This is quite a small specimen because of where it's been growing. This is a bit bigger. This is Meadowsweet. So this is what was traditionally used to flavour mead. But I would suggest having a little, if you don't mind, give it a while, have a little nibble of it, because it's got a specific flavour. It's very good for pain, in your, especially belly pain. If you've got any like belly discomfort, because this is one of the, it's got aspirin in it. So when you have a little nibble, you can actually taste. You can just taste the qualities of it. It is quite nice. But yeah, so it has been used a lot for pain relief. It's analgesic. You know, it kind of just numbs a bit of pain. It's almost got a menthol. Can you taste that sort of? Makes a lovely tea, and again a very good part of your spring tonics. Go and taste a bit soon.
Well, the flowers are beautiful smell, Meadowsweet.
Menthol taste to it.
The aftertaste, which is a kind of spicy. At first it's just a general green taste, but at the very end it's spicy.
Yeah. I get like a menthol sort of, almost like a camphor
like
taste.
anise.
Yeah. But again, it's a great tea. It's a good spring tonic. to make. There it is growing. Makes a lovely flower. By the time it's gone to flower, it's not going to be. The leaves aren't much use. By the time it's gone to flower.